Ah, 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 ah. What up, Eli Trujillo? Ween rules. All right, we're about to get started. I don't want to tempt the Facebook gods as far as it goes to getting the music going, but I'm going to be talking about the early days of Mirage Studios, 1983 to 1993. Cool. Welcome, everyone. If you're hollering, I can't see the comments right now, but please put your questions in there as you think of them. As we're done, we're going to go back over everything, and I'm going to answer some questions, but just want to say what's up to everyone and welcome. And I hope you're enjoying and making the best of your time at home. Oh, are you going to... Oh, cool. Okay. All right. So we're going to actually have another computer monitor here. I've got my beautiful helper, Tanisha, here, and I'm happy she's here.
Share the link or something?
I don't know.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and get going here. So we're starting with the early days of Mirage. And obviously that starts with our dudes, the Turtle Boys, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They are obviously two artists who met in different ways. Now, Kev was working at grocery. I think he was bagging groceries from what I remember. I'm not going to say all my facts are going to be absolutely set in stone, so if I say something wrong, holler at me. I think Kevin was bagging groceries and he was on his way home from work and he got on the bus and he found an issue of Scat, which was a local comic that Peter Laird was working on. At the time, he was a working comic book artist and Kevin was like gung-ho. He wanted to find these local people. One of the things that Peter Laird was working on at the time was the Little Used Bookshop 10 Penny Funnies. There's a little book I picked up. It's got some art and it's got some little comics in there that Peter did. And these are the kind of things that Kevin found and made him seek out Pete. And one thing they had in common was a love of comics, and especially the art of Jack Kirby, who, if you're not reading Kirby, what are you doing? You gotta get in. This right here, Silver Surfer, one of my all-time faves. A favorite of Kevin's was Richard Corbin, and here is one of his den books. It's fine. That's our cat, Raja. He might come in might say hi. Richard Corbin was another big artist who later would come in and work with the Turtles, work with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird on a time travel story, Turtles in Time. You all know it. An artist that Peter Laird loved, and you can really see inspired in his early work, is Conan by Barry Windsor Smith. One thing Barry Windsor Smith does better than anyone else is those little lines, the details, and I wouldn't say better than anyone else, but he really gets it going. His work with Wolverine, his work on Conan is just amazing, and you can really see it in some of the early stuff and some of Pete's work in such books as Gobbledygook. Another artist that Kevin was really into was Von Baudet, whose work is just mind-blowing as well. It's and very singular, which is something that Kevin and Pete, I think, both have in their art. It's like a singular look. They don't look like anyone else. While inspired by Barry Windsor Smith or Von Baudet or Richard Corbin or Jack, they still have their own style. They distill it into something perfect. The big thing, though, and the big artist that they both really, really loved was Jack the King Kirby. And there's our Turtle Boys as some of the King's greatest creations. Now, Mirage Studios became this thing, which it was really a mirage. It was not a real studio. It was like just the dudes in their house with lap tables and sitting around the kitchen joking. They went through a bunch of logos. I wanted to show off some of these logos. This was from a letterhead that they would write to the fans and the people they were working with. This is from the back of the Return to New York line. You can find that one. This is from Turtle Soup and a few other things. The Mirage Publishing logo, when you get a little farther, and they were publishing some other things like Casey Jones and Raphael. Signed by Kev, boom shakalaka. Another great thing, and then here's the current Mirage logo that was featured in Volume 4 and some other things. I got my mark I want to go over. So after that, after they formed this Mirage, and they started thinking, they're just two dudes, just like us, we're dudes, we're chilling out with our friends, and we want to make each other laugh. We want to one-up each other. So they started drawing, and Kev drew this mutant turtle with nunchucks strapped to their arms. Now, I remember the first time I saw this, I was probably in first or second grade, and I got a Ninja Turtle magazine. And they had, they were probably recounting the early stories, and this showed up, and I just remember, like, what a weird and what a cool image, So then, of course, Pete had to draw one, and then he had the nunchucks there on the arms, and they kept going, and they were like, oh, what is that? Yo, that's a Ninja Turtle. They were like, oh my God, we are hilarious. We're so smart. And they were. And so then he was like, oh, no, they're mutant Ninja Turtles. They're like, oh my God, we're so hilarious. One-upsmanship. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They kept going. They kept designing. They kept thinking. They honed in the design of these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Possible claws, 3 fingers, the tail, the shell. This very reminiscent of the early action figures looking there. And that's when they were reading one of their favorite books, Ronin, by Frank Miller. I mean, that was a book that was coming out at the time they were creating this. Take note of the format of the cover. Take note. We're going to see that kind of style again. Another thing that inspired and helped them create the origin of their turtles was Frank Miller's Daredevil. Now, the way Daredevil started is Matt Murdock, he's blind. No, he wasn't blind yet. He's a kid, and he's crossing the street, and he's like, oh no, a radioactive truck, it's about to crash. I need to save this person. Pushes this person out of the way. Radioactive leak. Spills all over him. By goes his eyes. Hello comes heightened senses. That radioactive stuff goes down the sewer. Oh, a kid was standing there as well. Matt pushed this old man, hit the kid. The kid drops his brand new pet turtles down in the sewer. Down with the... There we go. There's our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just like this Teenage Mutant Ninja, Matt Murdock. From there, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are born as we know and love them, basically. The 4 guys, the different weapons, not necessarily their personalities just yet. We'll get there. Now, how did they raise the capital to start printing? How did they raise the capital to get it printing? Now, they raised $500 from income tax that came around that time. They got a check from Kevin's uncle for $700 after presenting their idea to him. Kind of a presentation much like this one, where they showed off the pros and cons and what the Turtle Boys were all about. They got the $700 and they went to print. They got the $700 and they went to print at Jiggling Money. Turtles won. Now look at the layout. The reds, the blacks. Ronin, yo. So let's see. There's 300 issues. There's the 3,000 print run of that first issue. And now the size. We're always thinking of the size. Here's just this dirty comic that I have laying here. Oh, what's this? Interesting. Let me flip through it. Huh. Oh, jeez, I dropped it. It's wrinkled. Kidding. I love having this beat up copy of issue 1 to just knock around. It's an issue 2, or it's a second printing. It's just beautiful. This is a comic unlike any other that would go on to change all of our lives. Now the size. According to Kevin, I got a lot of this information too. I wanted to shout out this issue of Amazing Heroes where I read an interview and it helped kind of paint the picture of what was going on in the early days. Cool ad here on the back. So this is a good issue you guys should pick up. I'm sure you can find it. So this size is always weird. Now, apparently they had this like TV guide, TV listings magazine that they brought into the printer. And they said, we want it to be just like this. We don't, we want it stapled down the middle and we want it newsprint on the inside and we want it to be a comic book. So they gave them that TV guide like thing. And the printer was like, okay, I'll just make it this size and just like this. So the size came from that. it was a mistake, really. And honestly, it sucks for us trying to find bags and boards for it. But that's why you get a knockaround copy and you just keep it on the ground. Chucked. So, let's see. They put an ad out in the Comic Buyer's Guide in April 6, 1984. Now, I know I said on my post that I thought the first issue was printed on this day, April 1st. I'm not sure I can find corroborating information for that, so don't hold me to that. So yeah, they put that first ad in the Comic Buyer's Guide, and that helped them start selling through the mail and start selling directly to stores. So they didn't really do a lot of massive distribution at that time. So around when issue 2 came out, they were collaborating through the mail. So Kev lived one place, I think one was in New Hampshire and one was in Mass, and they had to collaborate through the mail. So they were sending penciled pages, and then one would send inked pages, and they would send back and forth in that way. So it was a little tough, and it really took them a while to get that second issue out. So that was a 6,000 issue print run, and that was printed around April or something. And then number 3, I think, was in December, and that was a 15,000 print run. But first, they had a 500 issue preprint run that they took to the New York Comic Con that year. And that's the variant that you can find that's got the brighter whites, the brighter white on the Laird's photo and on the front guy's face. Don't hold me to all these numbers. My notes are a little jumbled. So let's see. Then from New York Comic Con, they went to San Diego Comic Con. That was their first big West Coast tour, the first big West Coast show, and they made this great ad for it. A date that may never go down in history. Anyway, it sure did. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So, I wanted to make a little quick note about the style of the art. Now you can see it's called craft tint paper, which is kind of like a duo shade, duotone. People call it zipatone, but zipatone you kind of cut out and you put in. But this craft tint paper is actually, it's in the paper. So you can see here there's the whites. You would put your pencils and inks down, and then you would use a paintbrush to add these 2 different solutions. One solution reveals the lines one way, and the other solution reveals the lines the other way. So you can paint them in, and you can kind of see a close-up here. It gets the cross-hatching or single-hatching up here. And then you can also get the stark whites where the solution didn't go. This is from an older photo, so you can kind of actually see kind of where the brush strokes and things went down like that. This is an old Buzz Sawyer comic here. And that was what Kevin called out right out in the Amazing Heroes book as kind of an inspiration and where he saw this type of stuff done in their early careers. Now after that, we had the Raphael Micro Series. Oh, you know who else used craft tint? Klaus Janson. Big stuff. They also saw it probably in the Daredevil work of Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. So the Raphael Micro Series and the Micro Series in general is really where Eastman and Laird started describing the way the Turtles singularly acted. They're does machines, party dude, cool but rude, and he's the leader in blue, and he does whatever it takes to get these turtles through, if I may combine theme songs. Okay, so also we all know Raphael #1 Micro Series was the first appearance of Casey Jones, and the first appearance of toys. Now the toys, they were metal. Oh god, they were metal, and I have a Donnie. It is broken, so that's why I got it for so cheap. But that's what the original pewter turtle figs looked like. You can check it out there. So we had the toys. Then then Mikey came out after issue 5, and then right after Mikey came the Donatello story, which was such a favorite growing up, and I'm sure anyone who's read that. There was also like a children's book version of it called like Donatello and the Magic Crystal. One funny story is there used to be these old air cushion shoes, and they had these little bubbles on them, So I cut the air bubble cushion off my shoe, and I wrapped it to a pencil that I used in school, because then I was like, oh, this is my magic crystal pencil like Donnie did. And so, I mean, it's just so cool because they find this dude living under April's apartment, and his name's Kirby. And, I mean, it's very clearly Jack Kirby. And, he has this magic crystal that makes his pencils come to life, makes his drawings come to life. And so then they battle, and they go off into this Kirby land, and, oh boy, it's beautiful. So then Leo comes out after issue 9. And it's got a really interesting storytelling motif in there. So on the top of the pages, you see this epic battle of Leo versus the Foot. It's bloody, it's violent, it's crazy. It's a tough fight for Leo. And then across the bottom, you see this happy family type of feel of April and the other guys setting up a Christmas tree and kind of having fun. And while Leo's out getting his butt handed to him. And then so it kind of ends with this scene that is reminiscent of from the Turtles movie, where Raph crashes down through the ceiling, and then the big fight scene happens. So that's a really interesting thing that happens. Next, let's see, did I tell all that? Yeah, okay. Next we have Fugitoid, which is another early Mirage book. It happens right before issue 5. So Fugitoid was a creation of Peter Lairds from before the Turtles times, and that was going to be his first book. But then I think he met up with Kev, and he kind of shifted gears once they're like, these turtle boys, we can't cut them now, slack. And so Fugitoid is a really great book about Dr. Honeycutt. It's like a fugitive android, Fugitoid. So Dr. Honeycutt gets, electrocuted while he's trying to fix his gardening robot, and his brain gets transferred in there, and it just is an all-out, chase until we get to issue 5. Now, starting with issue 9, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, while their attention is kind of being separated. Also, I'm focusing on mostly the comics of Mirage. I'm not going to talk about the toys or the cartoon or anything like that. This is just the comics, just volume 1. So around issue 9, Kevin and Pete decide they're going to need some help. They're going to need some help making these look as good as they want, and in fact, better, and keep that high quality up. So first they brought in their dude Steve Levine, Kevin's friend from high school. He came in and started doing lettering, and we all know he went on to do great coloring, an amazing work with TMNT merchandising, coloring, and we all know him from Shellback Artworks, who always have these awesome things on Facebook. Follow them if you don't already. Then they brought in Ryan Brown, who did a lot of inking and tones, and ended up doing a lot of the design work for the toys. I said I wasn't going to talk about the toys, but you got to when you're talking about Ryan Brown. Then we brought on the dude, Jim Lawson, one of the greatest guys in comics of all time. Not only is he an amazing artist that's constantly growing, pushing storytelling, but he's just a nice dude. Now, when I was starting my comics, when I was starting to write my comic Monkey Lion, I wanted pinups from some of my favorite artists, and you always want to start, you want to shoot for the stars, and then, work your way down or whatever. So my first favorite comic was Turtles Adventures. It was drawn by Jim Lawson, and so I shot for the stars. I wrote Jim, will you do a pinup for my first comic? And I was like, this guy is never going to get back to me. This guy got back to me and did even more. Not only did he answer all my questions, helped me find a printer, he also did the pinup for no money, for free, and this is it. This is my character Lion from Monkey Lion by Jim Lawson. Just one-of-a-kind piece for free. Above and beyond, Jim, I love you, man. I hope you're watching. If you're not, you're the coolest. Box City Wallop's coming soon, y'all. Jim Lawson came in and really did a lot of the pencils moving forward. He did a lot of the main work after Kevin and Pete stopped. Then we have Michael Dooney, who was the first of these guys to really get some pencils down. And he was a guy who was already active in comics doing his Gizmo book when he came into the Mirage fold, and then Mirage started publishing Gizmo. And there's even a really great Gizmo and the Fugitoid book that you should definitely check out. So the first book that they all worked on together was issue 9, the Adolescent Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was, it's just a great book. It's got these early the first time we see a different bandana style, which I always thought was great. Here's a closer look at the byline here. Story by Eastman and Laird, pencils by Dooney, inks and tones by Eastman, Laird, and Dooney, Ryan Brown and Jim Lawson, and letters by Levine. So that's everybody going for it. All right, moving forward. I want to showcase, I bet you guys didn't know this. I was going to ask it, but I changed it too fast. Matt Howarth was the first person other than Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird to have their Art of a Turtle featured in TMNT. So this is featured in issue 3. This is the pinup from issue 3 by Matt Howarth. And he said you can tell he's a teenager because he's got a Walkman. So he's got a tape deck right here, and he's got his stuff up here. And he went on to do the Haunted Pizza. And Matt, I'm a big fan of Matt's work, the post-pros, and the way that he fuses music with his books. It's like really a cool fusion of science fiction and music. It's something I love. And so I reached out to Matt the other day because I wanted to buy some comics. I'm really trying to help independent publishers, comic writers in this tough time. And so I reached out to him and I wanted to buy some books. His website's a little confusing, and he's like, you know what, let me give you a call. And I said, give me a call? So he called me, and we, no lie, no exaggeration, I'm prone to exaggeration, we talked for 2 hours about comics, life, music, and I couldn't help but ask him about Turtles and how he got linked up with them. So he was cruising with his buddy. They would, read comics and go to movies, and they just got off a late night viewing of Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain, which is a wild, wild film. If you've never seen it, you should check it out. Not safe for work, definitely. And they just got home and they were probably, chilling, and his friend showed him this book. He's like, check this out. But I think he even said it was like an early copy of this, like an ash can size. I've never heard of that, but that's what he said. So there must have been a pre-copy, and he's like, oh my God, I've got to get me one of these books. So he writes to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, like, I love your book. How can I get an issue? And they're like, Matt Howarth, we love your art. We love your work. Like, you got to do something with us. So it was that fast that he found out that they were fans of their work. They said that he was a huge influence on the Turtles. And so he was like, okay, let's get together. He got his issue, and then he went on to work on one of my favorite issues. One issue, this is my original from when I was a kid. This was a book that I stashed in my school books, that I carried with me everywhere, and probably was one of the early books that showed me a comic doesn't have to be about a cape and fights and action. And while there is, like, one of the turtle dreams in here is Mikey as a superhero, but one of them is also just like, we're in school. One is like, I'm in a rock band. So it really showed me that a comic can be about everyday life, which is something that I carried along in my life. And another favorite comic of mine, if I may drop a name, Jim Mahfood's Generation X Underground Special. Another favorite all-time story of mine that takes these normally action teens and puts them in everyday life situations. So Matt Howarth is really a great person. I want to talk a little bit about Jim Lawson's Return to New York. Huge, classic books, just amazing action, and the first time that Jim really takes over and starts getting crazy on the pencils. And it's really cool too because Jim does the pencils for all 3 Return to New York books. The first one is inked by Peter Laird. The second one is inked by Eric Talbot. And the third one is inked by Kevin Eastman. So that's a really cool way. Sorry, I know I'm touching my face a lot. I did wash my hands right before this. I just love where the art goes. So let's take a look at it. Here's one page, and this is from, I think, the first one, and it's inked by Peter Laird. And you can really tell, like, Peter's art style still does show in these pages. Still the kind of thin lines, a lot of detail, all that Barry Windsor Smith detail going on. Here's a big spread from issue 3, inked by Kevin Eastman. Again, you can totally tell Eastman's dark lines, the duo shade, the craft tone paper, and of course these crazy wild shredders who are so much fun, made of a bunch of giant slugs. Y'all crazy. So after that, after the Return to New York, well, right before it, there's a few issues. There's one by Eric Talbot and there's one by Mark Baudet that aren't done by the main dudes and aren't necessarily canon. But once we get into the guest era, starting in issue 22, which has this great cover by Mark Martin, just a favorite wild just great action-packed cover. So then we get into the guest era. I brought out some of my favorites from the guest era. Let's see. Okay. So obviously, Soul's Winter is a huge one. Like that was one of the first. That was one of the first times I was reading Archie at the time. You know, I was reading the Archie Turtles books at the time, and I picked this one up, and I'm just like, yo, I don't know what this is. Where are my turtles? What are my turtles? And it really blew my mind that these characters are so diverse and can do so much. Let's see, where are the other ones I pulled? Oh, okay. So also we have this one by Rick Veitch, which is a wild and crazy romp with this crazy racing world. Really seems like it's inspired by what's his name? The guy who does all the does Rat Fink and stuff. Someone will tell me in the comments. And then another great one by Mark Baudet that I was saying this was issue 32, which, I mean, it must have been really cool for Kev to work with these people that really inspired him so much. And another one that really got me is the Hedden and McWeeny books. You know, made to look like the covers ripped off. And this is another one that I had this basket of mostly wizards and comics. Yeah, Ed Roth, thank you for that. So this is one that just lived in the bathroom, lived in the toilet, because I had stacks of comics and wizards in there, and it was mostly this one that I read so much. And again, it's so different. It's just such a different work of the Turtles, and almost like a storybook. So that's the guest era. One of the guys that I wanted to point out after the guest era, though there's a lot to that. I feel like I skipped over that fast, but you can check it out. You guys all know it. Eric Talbot. I know you guys love Eric Talbot as much as I do. This issue he did, this is issue 16. I better be right, because if I say the wrong names, y'all be... Issue 17. I knew it. I'm glad I looked. I would have looked like an idiot. Anyway, issue 16. Here's a big one. Here's my copy. I got him to sign it for me a few years ago in New York Comic Con. Just an amazing... another different, dark, and gritty look at the Turtles. Let's take a look inside here. This is a favorite panel that just shows, I guess, another thing about portraying a single turtle at once in these black and white books. They don't always tell you who it is. You don't always know who it is. Yes, he's got swords, but he's a ninja at the time. It really could be anyone. Just here's another dark, gritty battle by Eric Talbot. Comments I should check out? Okay. Another just great one. Now, I'm a huge Eric Talbot fan. I know y'all love his art. He does something really different with the Turtles, especially now. I recently got a commission by him that just blew my mind. You know, I love the wrestling turtle, and just like, he went above and beyond in this. I love looking, it's right there on the wall. I love looking at it. Wally Jake, shout out. Mary Keller, who was the letterer for City of War. I did not know that. I should have looked that up. So shout out Mary too. There's a lot of other people, I'm sure, who had a lot of work done in these ones. There's some other inkers. So there's a ton of people. I'm kind of just focusing on a couple of the ones. Okay. Thanks for all the help. Shout out to Nisha. Okay, cool. So we'll go on to the next person. Oh, 1 sec. Let's see. Wally Jake, do you know... Oh, Kevin said she was married to Dooney back in the day. I did not know that. Well, Mary, if you're watching, Dooney, if you're watching, we're interested to learn about her. And really interested to learn about any women in the history of comics who sometimes go unspoken for. I wrote another name, too, because there was someone that they brought in to help them in the early years that did a lot of their bookkeeping and help them keep the money in check. So there's always... You know, behind every great man, there's a great woman literally happening right now in front of my eyes. A.C. Farley. Craig Farley, an amazing artist. This right here has got to be my favorite Ninja Turtle graphic of all time. If I may step over here. I've had this image framed and on my wall since 1992 when I ripped this out of the 1992 Turtles calendar. So this has been up ever since, and it's always will be up. Always be up in. So Craig has done an amazing thing. He did 2 issues in those years. Let's see. He did I didn't even turn the page. Okay, so he did 29 and 43. He did also the cover of 49. And then, so let's go over a little bit. So here's a panel from 29. Obviously amazing and different. And the turtles were more kind of squat and stout and had, almost looked old, but just weathered. And these are turtles. Like, they're not going to have smooth skin if we're really talking turtle here. They're gonna look like this, and I just love the power and just, you might say, chonkness of them all. So here's another panel from 49. No more Zipatone Duo Shade, but you can tell his line is bolder and adventurous, and just again, AC Farley does it like no one else. No one else. And here's an example of one of his painted covers. Like, look at that. He paints these covers that look like the old science fiction, covers or novel covers, and it just makes these books like something you don't want to miss. What do I got down here of that? Oh, anyway, you guys have them. You know him. Craig, AC Farley, just does it like no one else. Shout out Gene Green. Farley's art was on a lot of carnival game posters back in the day. Whoa, that's crazy. And I think he did actually do book covers for like some of the old science fiction novels, and he was also early into computer graphics and did some graphics for the websites and stuff. Craig's a great dude. He's on Facebook, and I think he does great work. So Mirage Comics published a bunch of books when they kind of were diversifying and getting into the Mirage publishing days. Here's just a few of the books. They did Bioneers by AC Farley, which was a great book. Unfortunately, not all of these books got finished because of some movement in the business and in Mirage, and I think the end of Volume 1 and stuff like that. But there's a ton of great books. Rock Ola by Ryan Brown. I believe Ryan Brown did that as a daily strip in a newspaper, and then it was collected, or maybe even he did a new run there. I don't have that book. I'm interested to get it. If anyone's got it, shout me out. The Mirage mini comics, amazing, such a cool thing, man. I was looking for mine. I'm not really sure where they are. They're small. They're almost the size as these 10 penny funnies. It's a little box that you open, and inside there's all these little mini comics, and it's by all the big dogs from the Turtles, like Eastman, Laird, AC Farley got one, Michael Zulli's got one, Eric Talbot's got one, Rick Veitch has one, and so it's just such an amazing, cool little tome. Like, no one's made anything like this before or since. Puma Blues, just cannot talk more highly about this amazing book. They brought their art originally to Dave Sim, and it was published originally by Aardvark. Like, this is an Aardvark. That's not even a Mirage book right there. That's one of the Aardvark press books. But Mirage, I'm pretty sure they didn't publish it. It is on there, but I don't have any of the Mirage. I have some of the Aardvark press ones, but just a beautiful vision for comics in that one. It's just the what's always going through the air? What are they? They're like manta rays flying through this. Oh God, it's so beautiful. And if you get the collected trade, it's like another chunk, dude. A lot of great ones here. Grunts was a cool one that they did, which was kind of like a collected book of these kind of war stories, anthropomorphic war stories by a few different dudes. Peter Laird, I think, spearheaded that one. Another great book. They got into Turtle Soup on that one, which was kind of like an anthology where a bunch of different artists got together and did some short stories for the Turtles. I believe that's all the books I have on the table here. I forgot to show you. This is the first Turtles comic that I ever bought. Reprint of issue 3. Shout out to Kay at the Paperback Exchange in Cumberland, which neither of those things exist anymore. Much love, Kay. That's dark. Anyway, Gizmo by Michael Dooney, also Fugitoid, Dino Island by Jim Lawson. Again, Jim Lawson the Dino Island is like watching like a David Attenborough documentary on, animals, but it's dinosaurs and you're living your life through their eyes. It's just another great book. Tons of great books by Mirage Studios. So the artists that came from Mirage Studios and the vision of the Turtles, it can't be understated how versatile the creation is. it can be reinterpreted. It can be drawn by different artists, different times, future, past. Everyone from Matt Howarth to Sophie Campbell, there are these different views, and they're all amazing. They're all so great. They're so versatile that these people can take these characters, put them into almost like their world, like Steve Bissett or Rick Veitch. Like they have this world that their kind of characters operate in, and they can bring the turtles into them. They're part of their world seamlessly, and they have an amazing adventure. And that just goes to show, and you can just see some of the different ideas. From as far from Steve Levine, Jim Lawson, Dooney, Mark Martin, AC, Craig, like they can just imbibe. Yes, imbibe is cool. Imbue. They can imbue each different iteration with its own personality and ideas and creativeness, and it's just so cool. I love it, and I think that's what keeps us all loving it, collecting it, creating it, and wanting more and more. Mirage Studios, it's more than just a mirage to us, ladies and gentlemen. It is a world we live in and create in, and it's a world that is gonna keep continuing as long as we're alive, as long as our kids are alive. It'll never go away. The turtles are here to stay, babies. And we're doing our part by creating the Turtle Zines. Shout out to Armani. He wanted me to mention these. The Turtle Zine is a great thing that we do here in this group where we collect art just like Turtle Soup. Well, not like Turtle Soup in that we don't really have comics, though we want them. If anyone wants to do a couple page comics for the next one, that would be huge. But we collect art. We collect people's art and we publish them. And then all the money after printing goes to the Hero Collective. Wait, what? Hero Collective? No. Anyway, you know what I mean. Here's a nice photo of me in the intro getting on my turtle on as a kid. So these are a great thing, and I want to tell you we've got our next theme. And we don't have a date, we don't have a time that this is going to come out just yet, but we do want you to start thinking. And we have a theme. It's Mutant Mashup, baby. Mutant Mashup. So here's one by Kevin and Pete from back in the day. Turtles as the Avengers. So that's it for this time. There is still a few of the TMNT book left. If you want, go to CosmicLionProductions.com. And Hero Initiative. I'm sorry I forgot that, y'all. They do amazing work. So now let's do the Q&A period, y'all. If you have any questions, Shay's going to get them to me. So we're going to go through the comments and respond. So I'm going to grab my computer. I'm going to bring it here. All right. So now you can see on Facebook. All right. All right, let's see what we find. Let's see who's talking here. All right, so shout out Jerome Cabanata already, of course. We're going to get a nice little... muted. Okay, cool. So let's see what we got. Let's go to the top here. What? It looks crazy, right? Okay, Armani said, what's up? So Matthew Holland, yo, what it is? Peyton, what's up? Eli Trujillo, my ween friend. Peyton loves the old school vinyl. I do too, man. You had to get that Kevin Eastman vinyl from back in the day. Or the new one, I mean, that came out. Gene Green, shout out to Cartoonist Kayfabe, Ed and Jim. If you guys aren't watching that, you gotta check it out. John Orvik, what's up? Scott Grow, this is awesome. I agree, yo. You're not gonna feel lame in your presentation. All of the presentations are gonna be bomb. Peyton, concept drawings, always so much fun to look at. I totally agree. Wally Jake, what's up, dude? Yo, Michael. You has? You got a tough last name, dude. I love it. Yes, I have a CGC 9.8 of that. I probably guess you're talking about this. This is a CGC 0.0. Just how I like it. Just kidding, I have a couple slabs, but... Jerome Cabanata, and hello, everyone. I've never seen one of these pewter toys in real life, dude. I was very lucky to find that one. It's broken, but I don't care. I just like having it, dude. The arms broke. Wally Jake's got the Splinter and Mikey and the Triceraton. Ooh, see, I'm looking for that one. Really looking for that one. Christopher David. That's so cool. I agree. I guess you do lose something and not doing it in real time, but it's all good. David Browers, what's up, my dude? Big Daddy Roth. Oh, Gene Green had it. Yeah. Wally Jake, we talked about that one. Zach Fitzsimmons. I saw the one on Eric's Instagram. Did you know it was a comic for you? Awesome stuff. Yeah, I did, man. I knew when he posted it, I was like, oh my God, I am salivating. It is kind of funny because it's on a delay. So it's like, it's great. I love it. John Orvik, you're chonky? We all are. It's the COVID-19, you know, like the freshman 15. It's the COVID-19. Not something to joke about. Chonkiness, John Orvik, the Mini, Wally Jake, Hero Initiative. Thanks, Gene Green. I can't believe I forgot that. Jerome Cabanadon, you're in next time, dude. I know you are. Oh, Matt Ruber's digging the Ed Grimley off to the right. It's my favorite. Let's show it off. My dad's guy who worked with my dad. If my dad's watching, shout out and tell John Eastman we said hi.
This is like my luckiest of lucky days. See, that's a pain that's gonna linger.
Now there's a pain that's gonna linger. And I didn't even know that it was based off the comic book or off a cartoon, the completely mental misadventures of Ed Grimley till just recently. So I guess that's basically all of the comments. Is there any other questions that people have? What happened there?
Oh, you can just...
Solson put out a few manuals, Gene Green. Oh, okay. Eli Trujillo is asking about that. Justin Lay, you're confused, bro. I'm just doing the history. We're doing these videos. I'm talking about the history of Mirage Studios, so we're gonna get it back. This is great. All right, so I'll just wait here for any more questions. It looks like they're kind of going in slow. How did I set up a commission with Eric Talbot by Wally Jake? I just caught him correctly on Instagram. I find good ways to do it. You know, if they're not necessarily being communicative, buy something off their website, and then they might email you about, and then they can be like, oh, you can get a commission, email you something, send you also what you bought. I just messaged him on Instagram, and I think I just kind of caught him in the right time. It wasn't a fast process, but it didn't really matter. I wanted the art. I wanted something original from Eric, who's my second favorite after Jim, and I have a few pieces by Jim, which I love. So Zach Fitzsimmons said, were the Tales of TMNT published later on? Well, there's two runs of Tales from TMNT. I kind of chose to not cover that as there was a lot going on just in volume 1. The original Tales, I think, came out right around the time, because Jim Lawson did start off there. I think you're right. So the Tales are right there. I think they started off in the early 80s too, so you're right there. Gene Green, what book are you currently hunting for? Well, I realized that I don't have that Mark Martin cover that I showed earlier, so I'm definitely looking for that. I don't know what else I'm looking for exactly. I'm looking for that issue of Scat. I'm looking for any issues of Scat. I know that's a really hard book to get. Matt Lawrence, I believe Dooney has done so good with his solo stories, moving the turtle canon. Oh my god! You know what? I don't have those Dooney volume ones, the ones that he did solo too. Like those were very good. I have read them. I think online on the Comixology Unlimited. Dooney's work is beautiful, and I forgot to mention we obviously all know Dooney's work from that Ninja Turtles video game, the Nintendo art, which was like it's one of the most pivotal Turtles pieces. Wally Jake, Lucky's been another one I've been in search for years. Yeah, it wasn't easy, man. Tom Finn, the training manuals are really cool. They are very cool. All right, guys, so I might stop it there. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It was obviously, it was a huge pleasure. One thing, everyone who knows me from growing up and my family just knows that I've been like a Turtle fan forever. They know when they see Turtles, when they think of Turtles, they think of me. And so I'm honored to get to speak to you about the Turtles now. We'll go back to this. As I say goodbye, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Please share this and the early days of Mirage Studios, 1983 to 1993. Thank you so much. And if I may, end it this way. Facebook algorithm, don't get me. All right, y'all. Great job. Much love.